Video. There I am.
I can see you.
Hooray! Fantastic.
Yes, cool, cool. Isn't technology amazing? Like everything.
Incredible. It's like I'm living in the future. You know, everything about my current life is like science fiction novels I read when I was 16 or comics, you know. Ecological disaster, everybody's trapped in their houses because of weird viruses, connected to central computers. Yeah, it's all happened.
I gotta tell you something crazy. Remember, like on the email, I was telling you about like Instagram and all this different app.
Yeah.
Now, here's something more crazier. My friend's kid, he's in 6th grade. He's learning codes in 6th
Right.
on his own. He's learning codes so he could try to build his own like video game. Isn't that crazy? A 6th grade.
Yeah, well, it's like the world, as you know, depending on how things pan out, you know, that's one possible future where everybody is totally kind of, you know, coding and building things and stuff. There are other possible futures as well. Are we recording now?
Oh, yes, we are. We are. Yes. The
right. Okay. That's all right.
Interview started.
Yeah.
Before we start, I'm just having a normal conversation with you. And what's more crazy? What's more crazier is the younger kids, they know more about computer than I do. Like the younger generation, like far ahead. Like they know coding, all different apps, program, and all kinds of stuff. It's just crazy.
Yeah, because it's just part of the world that they're born into, so it's not kind of intimidating in any way. You know, I mean, the later you come to these things, you know, the more alien they are to you. You know, and I think you have to be bold with the technology, don't you, and just kind of use it and stuff. But I'm a very timid person, so it often defeats me.
Just quick question. Imagine you had this in the 80s where you could just send music right away, like a snap of finger on an MP3 files. And like
it would have been different, you know. It would have I don't know what it's done to the ease of like producing and distributing music. In some ways it's like a fantastic kind of utopian creative dream that everybody can do that, but somehow I think there was something to be gained in, like, you know, when we first wanted to like distribute our music and whatever to people, it was like just recording stuff on a cassette recorder, copying tapes, drawing up, you know, a sleeve, putting the sleeves in the cases, selling them at gigs. You know, there was a lot of effort involved. And some people might think it wasn't worth it. But, you know, I think the amount of effort and work that went into that actually kind of gave the music something else. But I don't know, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I'm not usually one to promote the work ethic, I have to say.
Yes. What have you been doing during this lockdown?
What am I doing?
Yes.
Oh, well, you know, probably a lot of things that other people are doing, like cleaning the house and digging up the garden and stuff. But I'm also, you know, I'm connecting with people like you through, you know, through this, sort of connected with, you know, my kids and my friends and people. I've been recording some music, writing some songs. Zounds have been I've been kind of like separately recording bits for a video for a song we're going to do. So we've kind of been pretty busy, but, you know, just sort of like separately.
Cool. Speaking of writing songs, are you doing like a full band, or are you still doing acoustic, like a solo acoustic?
I do. Zounds play, you know, pretty much all the time as a full band. In fact, we just got a new guitar player last year, so there's 4 of us at the moment, and it's, you know, for me, it's been sounding better than ever, actually. So yeah, we're doing that. We were doing a lot of gigs last year. We had a few things we were supposed to do this year, but you know, obviously they've all been cancelled at the moment. But I also do like solo acoustic things as well, and sort of like solo things with electric guitar, all kinds of stuff. You know, sometimes it works out pretty good, sometimes it's fucking awful. You know.
The reason I'm bringing this up is because when you toured California,
yeah,
full band, you toured as a solo. Am I correct? You toured.
I did some solo gigs just acoustically, but I also did I did some gigs with a band, which wasn't really Zounds, but promoters kind of billed it as Zounds. But it was like I played with a lot of different people. You know, I played with some people on the East Coast in New York. We did some gigs, all kind of Zounds material, and then yeah, I did some stuff I did quite a few gigs in California. I did some great shows in California. We had Greg Ingram from the Avengers playing guitar with me, which was, you know, which was great. Really enjoyed that.
That was 2011, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yes, you played at Part-Time Punks Club in Los Angeles. Do you remember that? It was
that the
Echoplex? Echo?
Yeah, the Echoplex. Yeah, I do remember that. That was fantastic.
So big. Did you know that it's a huge venue? Did you know that show sold out?
I heard it sold out, and they were saying that they had 2 venues there, and they could have, you know, and it'd be like 400 people, but they'd had a lot of people wanted tickets, so they wanted a kind of, I don't know, they can expand the size of the place, and they were saying like we could get 1,000 people in. And I was saying I'd rather play in a small place that was packed than a big place that was empty. And in the end, we did the big place, yeah, and it sold out, and it was a fantastic show, actually.
I don't know if you know this. It was at the big place, even while people were inside. There was a huge line outside, like a really, really long line.
Yeah, it came as a real surprise to me, you know, because you know, you don't always know if people like you. You go some places, people like you. I mean, that was fantastic, that gig in Los Angeles, and we played a couple of gigs in San Francisco and in Gilman in Berkeley, and they were great as well, you know. But then we played in what's it called, St. Louis Obispo. And like 10 people turned up, you know. So some nights you're like, you know, it's like 1,000 people there, and they're going mad for it. And some nights, you know, nobody wants to know. But you know, that's what happens when you're in a loser rock and roll band. You do some great gigs, and you do some fucking dire gigs.
Were you very surprised because your song is from like we were playing songs from 1980, or like. And all
yeah, I was, yeah, and I still am, yeah. I mean, we do some new material as well, but mostly people want to hear those old, those particular songs. And yeah, I'm kind of surprised that people still. I mean, we had quite a lot of young people, you know, coming, because Zounds went a couple of years ago and played in Oakland at the opera house there, and loads of people turned up. There's a lot of young people, and mostly what they say to us is that they like those songs and they like that music because it's saying something and expressing something that they can't really hear, you know, in a lot of music that's produced today. So I think it sort of resonates with them. I mean, the sad thing to me is that a lot of the songs still seem quite relevant, you know, to the situation that, you know, that we continue to go through. And I would have hoped by this point those songs would be like ancient history and completely irrelevant. But you know, like you say, the first record we made, you know, I know I've said this before, but, you know, the first record we made, the first line is war in Afghanistan, and there's still fucking war in Afghanistan now.
You're right. You're right. Yes. You're
Uh,
right. And was a show like that in the 80s? Like, because when you were playing recently, like all the people in the front were like knew all your lyrics, they were singing along. Was it like that in the 80s when you played? Did the crowd knew your...
not often. It was like that if we were playing in like Germany or Holland or Belgium or, you know, places in Europe, people really liked it. In England, it was kind of like that. It was like that in some places, but you know, a lot of places it wasn't. You know, it just depends. It's weird, you know. You go some places you seem really big, and other places you go and nobody really knows who you are. So I think more people come to the gigs now than ever before.
Uh-huh.
Far more people come to the gigs. Yeah.
Yes. Also, I don't know if you know this, but my friend does a radio show called KPFK 90.7 FM. And every time he before the radio show goes on, he does an intro of Subvert.
Oh, right.
Did you know that?
I didn't know that, no.
Okay. He texted to me today. He texted me a message today. And this is Chris. He does indie media on KPFK 90.7 FM. Every time when the comes on, his show comes on, Subvert, that song comes on.
Okay. I'll try and find that on the internet.
Yes. This is what he texted me today. He's my friend.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, he wants to know first, are they coming back to LA to play? Last time they were here, they didn't play anything off the new record. I love Redemptions. Second, I hope he's okay with me using Subvert as an intro to my indie media show. It's on nonprofit community radio station KPFK 90.7 FM. And are they writing anything new?
Right, okay. Well, firstly, I'm perfectly happy for him to play Subvert for his show. It's fun, you know, and I'm just really, you know, really kind of touched that anybody is interested in listening to music that I've made or songs that I've written. So that's totally cool. We play a couple of things off Redemption of Zounds. We don't play. I mean, more and more people are asking to hear stuff off of that now, but for a while, like, I don't know, people didn't seem to be enjoying it that much. But more and more people are saying you know, I think it took a while for people to hear the record and get to know the songs and whatever. So yeah, I mean, we're working more of those things into the set. I'm glad he likes it because I like it. I think, you know, it's I think there are some really good songs on there, as good as other songs that I've written. And we're not doing a lot of new music actually, but we did just record a song for a friend of ours who lives in Spain. He's doing a compilation album of songs that, you know, of bands that have been to, that he's taken to Spain. And we've done this thing, which is kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. This is kind of like a sort of surf song thing. You know, it's rocking. But we've done that song, and that's the first thing that we've done for ages. And then last year we were involved in doing this thing called Donny Takes a Trip, which was like it wasn't a Zounds record, but other people in Zounds were involved in it by this thing called Fake News Corporation. And we made this song and this video to try and stop Donald Trump coming to England, but it didn't have any effect, and he came anyway.
Wait, so. The video's out? The videos were
yeah, we put the video out we put this video out last year. If you go to YouTube and you put in Donny Takes a Trip, Fake News Corporation, You'll
Okay.
see this video, but which has been done by the people in Zounds, but we just didn't put it out as Zounds. We put it out as a fake news corporation. So you can find that on YouTube if you look for it, and it's you know, I think it's pretty cool. Because we hate Donald Trump. I'd just like to say that on American internet.
Yes, and he also wanted to know. Chris also wanted to know what are the band's politics these days? How would you describe them?
Oh man, I don't know. What can I say that won't get me banned even more than I am from the USA? You know, philosophically, I'm where I've always been. You know, I'm kind of, you know, philosophically, I'm an anarchist. My politics are that I think the world would be a lot better place if there was a revolution in people's minds and everybody worked together in a spirit of love and cooperation. You know, looking for I think politics and should be ruled by the idea. A friend of mine's got a good phrase for it, that's non-hierarchical and non-coercive. So there's nobody in charge and there's nobody telling you what to do, but people's minds have to be in the right place for that. And at the moment, people's minds are in a fucking terrible place, you know. So, you know, as much as, you know, I don't want to be all heavy about it. So, you know, as much as you kind of might hate somebody like Donald Trump, you know, what you got to think is, well, this guy is an idiot. He's got deep psychological problems, and you know, he thinks he can be the president of the United States. Okay, well, a lot of people, you know, some people think they're Napoleon. What is really worrying is that there's millions of other people that also think that's a good idea. That's the worry. You know, what do you do with all those people? And I don't know.
Okay. Cool.
So I hope that kind of explains it. But, you know, I'm still where I always was, you know, but, you know, I grew up in the 1960s. So what, I'm always going to be into peace and love, aren't I?
Oh, I got a text from my friend too. But before that, hey, you grew up in 1960. So did you see all the hippie movement and stuff?
Well, I was a kid when that was going on, you know. I was a child, so, you know, I'm kind of a 70s youth, if you like. You know, I was a teenager in the 70s, but I was just a little kid in the 60s. But, you know, you have the TV on and you can't help but see like the Vietnam War and, you know, the protests that were going on around all that, you know, and the whole kind of, you know, expansion of sort of like civil rights movement and, you know, feminism, you know, all those things were like the backdrop to when I was a child at school growing up. And for some reason, a lot of those things had quite a big effect on me, you know. And I think a lot of people that were involved in punk rock, it was the same thing. You know, they'd grown up and they'd seen all that stuff. You know, yeah. So I think it was quite important. Although everybody went around saying, "Oh, fuck hippies," you know. I mean, basically, 3 weeks before that, they all had long hair and were listening to Jefferson Aeroplane records. You know, so people rewrite history all the time.
So, like, even like the politics wise, like Zounds, Mob, Crass, and everything, they brought some of the hippie ideas to the punk rock and stuff.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I think that's true. And even if you look at kind of, you know, if you look at people like the Sex Pistols and the Clash, you know, they were being run by, you know, Malcolm McLaren and Bernie Rhodes and Vivienne Westwood. And these people had all been students in 1968. You know, they'd been at Goldsmiths College. So they were involved in like the big demonstrations at Grosvenor Square at the American Embassy. So even they were bringing in those ideas, you know, and like, I don't know if people know what situationalism is, but, you know, they kind of were using a lot of those things. I mean, they were using it they were using it to create sort of like pop stars in a way, and the whole kind of like, you know, glam media version of punk. But a lot of the rest of us, you know, took it all sort of like quite seriously, I think. And yeah, so there's a lot of crossover between those ideas, a lot of crossover.
Would you say even the punks who hated hippies, the music like electronic guitar, like Jimi Hendrix style and all that stuff, even the punks borrow the music from hippies as well? Even a lot of punks?
I think later on, I mean, I think a lot of that stuff kind of worked its way more into like, you know, sort of post-punk kind of thing, and you know, where things were like a bit more sort of like experimental or whatever. But I think there's a lot of roots of punk rock, you know, the music, you know, from like American sort of garage bands of the 60s, you know, and you know, a lot of that was influential. But you know, if you look at I mean, if you look at bands like, well, look at somebody like Patti Smith. I mean, she was obsessed with rock and roll, and, you know, Jimi Hendrix and the Rolling Stones, you know, and wanted to look like Keith Richards or whatever, and was doing Van Morrison songs. So, you know, but it was kind of a whole new, you know, a kind of new take on that, really. And you know, also a lot of the people that got involved in music, they were excited by all that music that had come before, but they might not have had, you know, the ability to play it. So you were kind of just doing it the way that you could, you know. I don't know if I'm making any sense now.
That's very interesting. Before I go to my friend's question, you know that your 7-inch, the War 7-inch with the Subvert.
Yeah,
the poster, it comes with a huge fold-out poster.
Yeah.
And it's amazing artwork. Who did the artwork inside of the poster?
It was a friend of ours called his name's Richard Chubb, but he sort of like does stuff. He used to do stuff under the name Dr. Inadequate Fuck, and sometimes Captain Custard, and he was just basically like a hippie guy that we knew. He lived in our house. He was just this young guy. He was homeless. He was living in the park. We met him. He came and, you know, lived on the floor in our house, and he was really good at drawing and stuff. And we liked his drawing, and we always liked comics and stuff. So we asked him to do something. So he did that poster for the first record, and I wanted him to do other things, but he kind of went off, you know, he went off with the hippies on the free festival circuit, and he's still alive. I know people that know him, but I haven't seen him for years, you know.
Very talented. That artwork was like,
brilliant. Yeah,
like professional, talented. Like if somebody told me, I would think like this person will work for some kind of magazine company or something, doing all these professional artwork.
He was just very talented, and, you know, had a lot of ideas and stuff. I think he's still doing drawing from what I hear, but he was never like a professional artist or anything.
Okay, what about the album then? There was a painting. I don't know if it's a painting. It's a firefighter and everything.
Yeah, and it's attached to the petrol. That was a guy called Cliff Harper did that, and he was quite a committed sort of like anarchist, and he was involved with some people running like an anarchist print shop, and they did a lot of underground comics and, you know, books and pamphlets and anarchist papers and stuff. So and we knew his work, and he'd done like a little cartoon of that, and we asked him if he could use it, and he said he just asked if it would be possible to like just paint it again. So he did a kind of, you know, more sort of like painted version, and that's great, that thing. I love that.
Yes, but what was the story behind that album? Because that 7-inch was black and white, then you went full color with the color painting and stuff with the firefight. What was the story behind that?
Well, the first record was on Crass, and when you work with Crass, you do things the way Crass want you to do them. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but they had a very particular kind of style and look, and you know, way that they wanted to present things, and that was black and white. You know, that was their particular look and their particular aesthetic. Zounds were always a much more kind of, you know, we liked bright colours. You know, we liked bright colours. We used to smoke a lot of dope, and we'd taken acid, and we liked, we just liked colour. But I like black and white as well, man. I like black and white as well. I like everything.
Okay, so are you saying that, let's say if you want to do color on Crass at that time, Crass would have said no to you guys? No color?
Yeah, they would have said no.
So it was always black and white on Crass? No colors?
Yeah, no colors. No, not until, I think the Poison Girls were allowed to have red on their records. Because like when you saw Crass, they were all dressed in black and they had really bright white lighting. And it was really like, and they had all these video screens and flags when they, you know, when they put on like the whole, they wouldn't want to call it a show, but that's kind of what it was. And it was really fantastic, but it was all really monochrome and hard. And then like Poison Girls used to play with them a lot, but Poison Girls always was sort of bathed in this red light and had black and red sort of clothes, you know. You said it was all sort of quite spectacular, yeah. But so all those records and all those singles on Crass, they were all black and white, and they wouldn't have accepted any color at all. I think later on they did, right at the end, they did a compilation album that had a color sleeve, and I think that was like almost announcing it was the end of Crass. I don't know, because you know, we were connected to them for a while, but then we were sort of like off doing our own thing and they were doing their thing. So by the end, I wasn't really seeing them anymore.
Did you break off because there was too much rules, or you just wanted?
No. No, it was a bit weird in a way, because we did the single and we were all really happy with it, and they were all really happy with it. And we were speaking to Penny and saying, Penny Rambo, their drummer, and he did all the production, and he was kind of like, you know, if Crass had a leader, he was the leader. And he wanted to do an album with us, but I think other people in the band felt that they didn't want to get into like just being a record label, and you know, so they said, okay, well look, we'll just do the one record. And it's the same, they did one record with Flux of Pink Indians, and they did one record with the Mob and Andy T, but they didn't want to get into this thing where people were, you know, like, I don't know, developing a career or something. So so we went to Rough Trade, you know, and they were happy to put our records out, and they were happy for us to have a colour on the covers. What they weren't happy about, though, because the first single we did for them was Demystification, and the guy that did the artwork, you know, on the poster in Can't You Comma, he did a cover for Demystification, which was really good, but it had a picture of Margaret Thatcher on it, and he'd drawn this cartoon of her, and she was like an Indian guru. And, you know, of Indian gurus are often naked. So she had this kind of like weird sort of, you know, body, emaciated kind of body. But, you know, I have to say she was naked. And Rough Trade wouldn't put that on the cover, because they consider, I mean, it was not in any way sexualized or erotic, or, you know, it was a fucking brilliant cartoon. Weirdly, Crass would have been happy to have that on a cover. They, you know, that was the weird thing. They wouldn't do color, but they wouldn't mind having like a parody of Margaret Thatcher with no clothes on. So, but you know, you have to, you know, Rough Trade didn't want that, so we did some other cover, which, you know, was a bit anonymous, really. Yeah, so that's that.
Oh, one more quick. By any chance, when you play with Crass, did Crass ever go, Steve, make sure you're dressed in all black? Did they ever say that? Make sure you're in all black.
It's weird, because tonight, I mean, I'll tell you, I very, very rarely wear black clothes. I hardly ever. And I was aware when I was going to say, oh, I'm all in black, I'm going to be like some fucking, you know, But normally I just like have any old clothes on. But no, they no, they didn't. But they were ones for rules. We didn't play with them that much. I mean, we just kind of like dressed in t-shirts and jeans and stuff. You know, we didn't really dress up or anything. You know, I mean, to be honest, we didn't even consider ourselves punk rockers. You know, we were just fucking wasters, really. But punk rockers really seem to take, well, you know, that like that anarcho peace punk thing really seemed to like what we were doing and what we were saying. But, you know, because we never sounded like Crass or anything. But, you know, all those bands on Crass Records, they were all quite different. You know, Zounds, The Mob, Crass, Poison Girls, Flux. All those bands are quite different. It's not like everybody's going sort of... So... yeah, so yeah, it's a good label.
My friend texted me this today. Her name is Taryn from. She sings in a band. They're like an anarcho goth band.
Yeah.
Medusa Stare, and she texted me. She has 4 questions for you. Okay, number 1 is, who were the Zounds most musically influenced by?
I you know, it's so many bands, you know. I just like all sorts of music. I like, so, you know, when I was a kid growing up, I liked all the bands everybody liked, you know, like the Beatles and the Stones and the Kinks and the Who and the Small Faces. And then I kind of like the sort of psychedelic bands later on. I was really into we were really into Can. We were into a lot of kind of American psychedelic bands like Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane. We like the Doors. We like the Byrds. We like, you know, like German music. I liked when I was a little kid. I grew up. My family all really liked country, what we used to call country and western music. So I grew up, you know, listening to Johnny Cash and Hank Williams and Loretta Lynn and stuff like that as well. So, but you know, I just really like so much different music. It's hard to say. It's hard to, you know. I love the Beach Boys. You know, I mean, you live in Los Angeles.
That's why Zounds sounds so different than any other bands, because all this musical influence you have from different.
We like all that stuff, you know. And so, you know, and like when the punk thing started happening, I was really into like The Fall and ATV and Buzzcocks and Wire and all those bands. But I kind of felt you know, they weren't so much influential because we were all doing it at the same time, you know. So it was kind of like the earlier music and all these things kind of like you know, I'm making it sound like you know, the music I make is this a great amalgam of all these things, but like I'm a terrible fucking musician and a terrible guitar player, and
You're awesome.
you know, I just feel like, you know, I can barely tune a guitar.
If you're terrible, keep that up, because everyone
I just, you know, all you can do is do what you do, isn't it? You know, and like things creep in. So, yeah, so I couldn't like really narrow it down to any specific bands, but you know, I like loads of music and it all influences me.
Yeah. Number 2 question from Taryn again. What drew them to anarchism? So
Sorry?
What drew them to anarchism?
What drew Zounds to anarchism? You know, very, very simple things like, you know, we were not bad people, but, you know, me and my friends, we used to like to go out and we like to smoke dope and we like to go to free festivals and play music. And while we were doing that, we were constantly being harassed by the police. And it started me thinking about well, who are these people to tell me what to do? I'm not doing anything that's harmful. There's a lot of other people going out and they're making weapons and they're causing wars and they're polluting the planet. And, you know, I really don't think those people have any right to tell me what to do. So it's that simple. It's not like a big kind of, it's just like, you know, I'm willing to treat anybody with respect and live cooperatively and peacefully with anybody. And I hope they are with me, and we can work things out. You know, when you're with your friends in a room, you know, you just work the situation out, don't you? You don't have to fight. You know, oh, I want to watch Star Trek on the telly. Well, I want to watch this. You're not fighting all the time. You're working things out. And I think that's what people can do. And I don't think anybody really has the right to tell you what to do or to force you to do anything. So that's what drew me to it.
Okay, number 3 question from Karen. From being a young political punk to older punk, has your political agenda changed? How has life experience clashes with political ideologies?
Well, no, my ideas haven't changed. They're remarkably similar now to how they were then. But, you know, you have to go through life making an awful lot of compromises, which is, you know, which kind of draws you into the system. And particularly if you have kids and you're willing to take responsibility for them, you have to have a roof over their heads and you have to put food in their mouths. So you end up having to work and you end up compromising, you know, with a system that you really don't agree with. And that can be very difficult. And I think it can cause a lot of anxiety and a lot of psychological and mental health issues. And I think they have for me over the years. But I mean, essentially, my ideas are the same. But, you know, I'm not a violent revolutionary. I really don't, you know, and this is where I'm different to maybe a lot of people, you know, on that scene. I don't think, you know, you can really achieve a lasting kind of change by using sort of violence. Really, the revolution has to take place in people's heads. You know, people are, you know, and this is all I have ever tried to do. You know, is in this is just kind of not just in my songs, but in my life. You know, it's just like agitate for the way I see things and I want things to be. You know, sorry, I'm getting lost again.
No, it's fine. I'm with you on that too. I'm not into violence or like.
I just don't think that it changes anything. You know, okay, so you can have a violent revolution and like this lottery. You see this all the time. This group, you know, they get an army together and they take over and they force everybody to be this way, and then years later, the other lot, you know, form an army. And it's only going to be some sort of lasting peace if people come to their senses and realise that's, you know, it's like that, you know, that John Lennon song that he did, you know, Happy Christmas, war is over if you want it. The day that nobody wants war, we won't have war because nobody will go and fight it. But people must want it because they're doing it all the fucking time, you know, and it's, you know, yeah, what can I say?
Hey, you mentioned you have kids. Do your kids come and watch you play?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, I have a grandchild and he's come to watch us play as well at a punk festival in Newcastle.
Oh, wow.
My kids, weirdly, they really like the band, which is strange because I didn't let them ever listen to any of my records when they were growing up. Because I didn't think they were very good records and they embarrassed me, and I don't like to hear my own records because it makes me feel awful. But yeah, they've been to shows and they're really supportive and they really like it. You know, they're pretty good kids, really.
Cool. Okay. Question number 4 from Karen. This is our last question. What is your favorite anarcho-punk band from the 80s?
Well, you know, the Mob. I always loved the Mob. You know, I just from the minute I saw them, I just, you know, I always loved them, and I'm very good friends with Mark. You know, you should talk to Mark. Mark is doing lots of fucking brilliant things. You know, I'm not doing anything. I'm just hanging around, getting stoned and playing music, but he's doing a lot of very cool things. So you really should get in touch with him. I can put you in touch.
Well, I interviewed him when he was down here.
You interviewed him, did you?
Yes.
He told me about you. Yeah, anyway, so yeah, I love the Mob, but it's weird because we listened to the Poison Girls yesterday, and that was sounding good. And we listened to, I never really used to listen to Crass very much, but I listened to a couple of their records yesterday, and I really dug them, actually. I just thought, oh, this is kind of better than I remember, because I loved them, and you know, and I was, you know, yeah, so, but yeah, be the Mob every time, yeah.
So I was reading this book, The Day the Country Died.
Oh, yes.
And in this book, you mentioned about squatting. Is like everyone I talked to, I interviewed all the English band, they were all squatting. Was that the thing in the 80s?
Yeah, in the early 80s. Well, that started off as like a kind of, you know, squatting is like an ancient sort of right that people were allowed to go onto land, and if they fulfilled certain conditions, they could stay there. So people had always been squatting, but then in the 1960s, there was a lot of empty houses all over England, but particularly in London, you know, cities. And we were squatting in London. And so, I mean, basically you'd break into the houses and change the locks, and then you'd live in them. But these were, you know, these weren't like just anybody's house. These were abandoned houses. And it was illegal, and you would often get evicted out of them. You know, the police would come round and serve you with an eviction notice, and then you'd have to leave in 6 weeks. But a lot of the places, you know, they'd just been abandoned by the council. A lot of them were council houses, and London had thousands of these, and we couldn't afford to, you know, a lot of the you know, we were unemployed or doing dead-end jobs, and you know, so thousands and thousands of people would just like break into these houses and often just like do them up, you know, fix the electricity up, fix the water up, and live in the houses. But a lot of the newspapers and that were very much against squatters, because they just thought we were getting something for free, and that you know, we couldn't afford to pay commercial rents or anything. So I think we were doing a service, yeah. But everybody squatted, man. I mean, everybody was unemployed.
Was your squat, did you have running water and electricity?
Yeah, we did, yeah. Because one of the things that squatting did is it taught a lot of people how to do things. So often you'd go in and like the electricity would have been turned off, or, you know, the wiring had been taken out, or the water had been turned off, you know, so you'd have to kind of learn how to fix that up. So, yeah, I mean, like we lived in this street called Brougham Road in London, in Hackney, near London Fields Market, and like we lived there, and the Mob lived there, and a load of other people, a load of people living in buses around there, and the band Throbbing Gristle lived across the road, and you know, and that was like whole streets of squats. So, but you know, you'd kind of learn. So, you know, we fixed up the electricity, we fixed up the water. We had like an outside toilet. There was no bath or shower.
Did you say?
Huh?
Outside toilet, like no walls?
Yeah, the bathroom, as you call it, was outside. You know, you'd have to go out in the garden. There'd be a separate room with a bathroom, as you call them. Yeah, it's what we call a toilet in England. So yeah, but there was no shower or bath in our squat, but some there were, there were, and some people would move in and fix up their houses and they'd be nice, and some people would just move in and wreck them and have parties for 24 hours, and then kind of get thrown out. So it was all different kinds of things.
Could that happen today in London, squatting?
It's very, very difficult because the law was changed several times, so it's almost impossible to do now. I think it's possible to squat disused kind of warehouses, but I'm not really sure. I haven't lived in a squat, for years, hundreds of years now.
Wow, interesting. So I posted on my Facebook wall that I was going to interview you, and if anybody has questions, and these are some of the questions.
Okay, right.
Okay, this is from John Oliveira. What do you think of the state of so-called punk today, and do you feel there's any room for protest songs?
Yeah, I don't really know what the state of punk is today. We play with some young bands who are really good. I don't know if they're like punk rock. There's a band in Bristol that are quite punky, a women's band called Slag Heap. I would advise anybody to listen to them. But mainly I don't really hear a lot of new music. I don't know why. But there's always going to be protest music, yeah, because there's always something that's wrong and there's always something you can sing about. And, protest songs have a long, long tradition, and particularly in America where, you've had people, like Woody Guthrie and Joan Baez and Pete Seeger and people that have really kind of taken very positive messages to people through their music. And I think there's always a place for that, always.
This one is from In Baron. What books or philosophy had an influence on him and the time or now?
What books had an influence on me? Again, so many books. I really like the books of Kurt Vonnegut. Do you know Kurt Vonnegut? He's an American author. He wrote a book. He wrote a lot of books. He's dead now. He wrote a book called Slaughterhouse-5 about his experiences in Dresden in the war. That is an absolutely phenomenal book about somebody going through war. So that was a massive influence on me. The books of John Steinbeck, really, Grapes of Wrath and East of Eden and Cannery Row, those books had a really huge effect on me. Mm-hmm. Science fiction books by a guy called Philip K. Dick, who lived in San Francisco. They were pretty important to me. So yeah, lots of things, yeah.
And his other question is, what are the best lessons we can take away from the Free Festivals era, and what are things we can learn from?
That if you do something in a cooperative spirit and you're all kind of committed to each other, you can achieve some fantastic magical things and magical times. So yeah, working cooperatively and doing things, in your community amongst yourselves, but trying to widen that out all the time. So that's what I would say.
This question is from Clayton Levine. What has your relationship with mental health and resistant politics been?
Well, my first experience of mental health was my mother, who was bipolar, manic depressive, and I suffered a lot of physical abuse from her. So that was my first experience of mental health issues. I lived with her till I was 5 or 6, and then she moved to America, where she lived the rest of her life. And in fact, she died in Colorado 3 weeks ago.
Oh, sorry.
You know, I was estranged from her. I've not, you know, I don't think ill of anybody, but I hadn't had anything to do with her. But I've got a lot of family in the USA, and I'm sort of not really in contact with them, but I have been in contact with them a bit more. And, you know, generally they seem like they're fine, you know. I also, you know, I think I've suffered from periods of kind of, I've suffered from panic attacks and anxiety attacks myself at various periods in my life. And I've also worked a lot with, because I've never been a professional musician. Never. I've never earned a living from being a musician. I'm just like a bloke who's got a band, and, you know, sometimes the band is doing quite good and other times it's not. And so a lot of times I've worked in education, and a lot of those times I've worked with young adults who have special educational needs, and, you know, sort of physical and mental health issues, mobility issues. I had a granddaughter who sadly passed away last year, who was severely disabled as well. So I've had a lot of, one way or another, I've had a lot of dealings. And I don't know about anywhere else, but in England, people are starting to take mental health issues a lot more seriously than they ever did before. And I think people realise that more of us, you know, are subject to these different conditions than we ever thought. So I think there's kind of progress in some ways in people being aware, you know, particularly of things like manic depression, bipolarity, you know, depression. So yeah, so I've had all sorts of, you know, interactions with that, both, you know, professionally in terms of my work, but also in, you know, being the child of somebody who was really fucking in a bad way for a lot of her life. And then, you know, the things I've been through myself. So yeah, I've forgotten what I said the point of the question was now. Did I answer it?
Yeah, you answered it. But you said that you were working with youth. Were you a counselor or a teacher?
No, I was, I mean, nominally, I suppose I was, I worked at a college in England for like young people between the ages of 16 and 19. And they had a department, it was called like a special needs department. Okay. And a lot of my work was with them. So yeah, nominally it was, I mean, I was called a lecturer, but that's a bit grander than it really was. It's kind of a teacher, I suppose. I say that hesitantly because I didn't really, when I went to school, I didn't like teachers.
Oh,
okay. So it's a bit embarrassing. You know, I was a teacher. I'm sorry. You know, I'd rather have been a bank robber or something. But yeah, guilty as charged, Your Honor.
Next one is from Comrade Black from Canada.
Right.
I'd be interested if he stayed involved in the DIY punk scene as it becomes more interwoven with the metal music and culture. And what kind of music does he listen to find inspiring today?
Oh, you know, I still listen to all the music I ever listened to. I listen, my son listens to a lot of kind of electronic music, which I think comes out of like, you know, techno thing. I mean, I don't really know anything about it, but he's always playing me stuff. He's involved with a lot of people in I live near a place called Bristol in England, and it's a real centre for kind of like experimental electronic kind of techno stuff. So I hear a lot of that, and it sounds great. But I'm not going out like looking for music the way I did. I like, you know, I listen to some sort of African music. So maybe something like Dinarowin or Fela Kuti. But again, it's all older music. I don't hear a lot of new music. I went to see. I was up in London recently, and I went to see something called More Mother, a woman out of Pittsburgh or somewhere, Philadelphia or something, a black poet woman who has like a kind of electronic stuff going on, very weird, and but it was fantastic. More Mother, really, you know, it was really tremendous, and that's very new and current. But I'm not listening to. I don't hear a lot of new music, you know.
Has your son ever took you to a rave?
No. No, I mean I've seen raves and whatnot. I mean he goes to them. I don't go out to raves. But I know, I have been to raves, you know. But raves, you know, that's like an old thing as well now. You know,
yeah.
It's been around for
right.
Yeah. So next question.
I also like Yo hear his thoughts on anarchist movement there and how it's involved. Lastly, his thought on Chumbawamba.
Right. I don't know how the anarchist movement is evolving. It's, you know, I'm not really aware that there is such a thing as an anarchist movement. I mean, I know people that are involved in anarchist Black Cross, and they seem to do a lot of work with, you know, refugees, particularly refugees in the. But I don't see any kind of space for that sort of activism at the moment. As for Chumbawamba, I recently did a gig with Dunstan Bruce from Chumbawamba, and I'd never met him before, but it turned out he was an absolutely lovely bloke, and we got on really well. And their music's fine, yeah.
Did you say you never met Chumbawamba before?
No, I'd never met them before. No.
I thought you would have like played a bunch of shows in the old days with Chumbawamba.
No, never. We split up before they even started.
Wait, what year did the Mob split up? I mean, not Mob, the Zounds. What year did the Zounds split up?
Originally, 1982.
Wow, 1982. That's so crazy. I said the Mob, Zounds, Mob Flux. You guys all go the same category.
The Mob split up in like 1983 or something, I think. You know, it was like a very short period of time.
Because I interviewed Dambert yesterday, and he was saying that Chumbawamba started in 1982.
Yes, he started the year we split up. Yeah.
Wow.
I know everybody thinks like we're all friends and we all know each other, but that's not. I mean, I know the Mob, and I know, you know, the people from the Subhumans, and I knew Crass and Poison Girls, but I didn't really, you know, bands like Chumbawamba, Subhumans, they kind of came along afterwards. I mean, you've got to remember when we were going, there was no such label as anarcho-punk. That is, you know, people didn't start calling that until quite a long time afterwards. I don't know what people called us. I don't know what we were. So that's kind of like, it's almost like that's a historical thing. But anyway, I liked Chumbawamba's records. They seemed, I know people that really knew them. Now, I had a guy in the band for a while called Protag, who sadly is dead now. And he used to be the sound engineer for Chumbawamba. So he knew them really well, and he always told me they were really nice, but I never really knew them. And then, as I say, I met, we did a couple of gigs with Dunstan's band, not, you know, a year or two ago, but I didn't really get to meet him. And then, but recently we we played up at Rockaway Park, which is Mark Mobb's place. And I hung out with Dunstan for quite a while, and we got on really well. With lovely bloke, really, really nice. Yeah, really, really great guy. Yeah.
Next question is from Andrew Smith. Are there any plans for new material?
No, well, I mean, apart from this song that we've done for this Spanish compilation album, no. People are only just asking us to play stuff from the redemption of Zounds. You know, it's like you've got to have a record out for like 5 years before people are interested in it. So we might do something else, but there are no plans.
Wait, it takes that long, like 5 years?
For people to get to like it. Yeah. I mean, we recorded Redemption of Zounds. We played some songs, like, and every time we played them, people would go quiet. So I just said to the band, I don't want to fucking play them. Nobody likes them. Wow. But now we go to gigs and people are calling out for them and saying, oh, we really love that album, man. Why don't you play any songs from it? So which is why we're going to start playing songs from it. But there are no plans to do any. We never have any plans. We don't even plan to do gigs. You know, we never, ever try to get gigs. People come to us and say, oh, can you do this gig? And if we can do it, we'll do it. But we're not phoning up promoters saying, can you put us on? You know, it's too late for me to start to get a career in the music business.
Why do you say that?
Because I've been at it for years. Next question.
Okay. Next is David Insurrection. David Insurrection said, could Steve say something about the Weird Tale tours and the Ladbroke Grove scene?
Yeah, okay. So Ladbroke, we used to go to free festivals and watch this band called Here and Now, who were like a real hippie band. And that's how we met the Mob, because the Mob used to play with them and we used to play with them at free festivals. So we got to know that. And Here and Now kind of lived around Ladbroke Grove, which was an old hippie place. And Hawkwind had lived there, and the Pink Fairies and all these kind of like, you know, sort of more of the revolutionary hippie type. So people that would have been like influenced by the MC5 and the White Panthers. Do you know about that?
Oh, yes. MC5 and the White Panthers, yes.
Yeah. So like the Pink Fairies were like a sort of Ladbroke Grove version of MC5. And Here and Now lived down there, and it was all kind of very free, and there was a lot of free gigs in the streets and whatnot, and then the Weird Tales tour just grew out of that, because we met the Mob and a band called the Astronauts, and this women were in this band, Androids of Mew, and we just decided we'd do this free tour. So we kind of got it together somehow. And we just used to tour around. We booked all these gigs. And we just said to the promoters, we don't want you to pay us. We'll just take a collection, you know, which is like what people do all the time in the USA anyway. So it seems the way most musicians are. So we just used to do these free tours. We did a couple of free tours, and we'd just go around the country, us and the Mob and the Astronauts. The Astronauts never used to turn up much. The Androids of Mew. And just take collections and then like go to the next gig. So we were playing all the places that the other bands were playing, and then we were all like living on this bus with dogs and babies and whatnot, and it was very hard, and it was really great at first, but then everybody ended up hating each other because it was so difficult.
Speaking of the Mob, I saw a video on YouTube. Members of Zounds and Mob, you guys were together on stage doing Zounds song.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sometimes Mark Mob comes and he'll play dancing with us, or we've played a couple of Mob songs with him. You know, we've done No Doves and a couple of others, When the Mirror Breaks, one or two. So sometimes if we're playing in the area, Mark will turn up and he'll come up and play some songs with us. a couple of times I played with the Mob when the Mob was still playing. They're not really playing at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I turned up and done some stuff with them. So yeah, we're all we're all friends and all like to play with each other and whatnot. Yeah, and like each other's music.
All right. Next one is from Winston Smith. Ask him if they encountered much blowback from the anarcho-punk scene from their embracing melody and pop elements in their music. They seem to kind of sit alone in the terms of musicianship from a lot of bands back then, and I wonder how it affected the trajectory of the band.
Yeah, I don't think there are some people that just like hardcore, hardcore kind of punk music, and we're never really gonna appeal to people like that. But a lot of people, I think, like the fact that we were kind of like a bit poppy and had choruses in our songs, and didn't see that there was. I mean, I always thought the Mob songs, were very melodic. People didn't mind. People seemed to like it. They'd often come up and say, "God, it's amazing. You've actually got proper songs." So it never. I think there were some people that would come along, people that were really just into Crass because they liked that really hardcore sound. But most people, most people seem to think it was pretty good and sing along. This land is your land.
I mean, yes, since you were saying that you think people come because you were on Crass record, but remember when you played it, even Manic Relapse, everybody was all singing along. The crowd.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like that. I like songs, and but I like noise as well. I like noise too.
All right. Next question is from Eli Daniel. Will Steve come back to California post-COVID? The shows with Jason, Willer, and Dave were great, and I would love to see that again.
Oh yeah, that was tremendous. Yeah. I played with Jason Willer and Dave Ed from Neurosis, and it was in San Francisco, and I did like some solo numbers, and then they came and played with me, and that was and I mean Dave Ed, I mean God, what a powerful musician he is. Absolutely fantastic. Look, I'd love to come to California. California's the promised land. It's the Golden State. I love California, and I've got so many friends in California that I love. But for a start, I have to have a special visa to come to the USA because I've got a criminal record. Because when I was a kid, I got caught smoking pot, and even though it's legal to smoke pot in California, it still means that I've got a criminal record. I have to get a specialist visa, so it's very difficult for me to come. And whenever I come, I'm really paranoid because I'm always like taken to one side, and questioned and asked why I'm there. And I mean, this video is probably not going to help my cause very much, is it? So, but yeah, I'd like to come back, and we're always being asked to come back, but I'm a bit frightened to come at the moment. I think I'm going to wait till after Trump's gone.
Okay.
I'll come. I was hoping Bernie would be in charge, but that's not going to happen now, is it?
Hey, no, it won't. But no. Question. Okay, playing in front of the punks in California, how is it different, the crowd-wise? How is it different from now, from California crowd to how it was in England in the 80s, the crowd-wise? Like the fashion and everything.
People are more enthusiastic here. I'll tell you what was really bad in England in the late 70s, early 80s. Was that there was a lot of violence at gigs. There was a lot of fighting, and sometimes people would turn up to try and beat up the band. And although we had some great gigs, there was a lot of gigs were very aggressive. England used to be a really violent place. The English are quite a violent lot of people compared to Americans. I know people find that weird, but like you all have guns in America. and a lot of people get killed. If everybody had a gun in England, the place would only last a week. Everybody would have shot each other. I mean, they're really fucking violent in England.
I could imagine having gun at shows in the 80s.
Yeah, I know.
All the people come and all the punks
Yeah,
will all
I prefer California.
uh-huh.
I prefer California in this millennium to England in the early 1980s. Oh, England was grim, man. It's raining. It rains all the time. The people are miserable. You know, California, it's the sunshine state.
You guys don't get that much sun in London, huh?
It rains all the time. Yeah, no, we don't get a lot of sun.
All right, next question is from Steve. Steve Matei. How did Zounds meet Here and Now? And what was it like to tour with them? Did Steve feel that Zounds were always a punk band? What did Zounds set out to be in the beginning musically? And what is Steve's top score at the game Scrabble?
Yeah, my top score at Scrabble is probably very low. I'm not very good at it. Do you know what that game?
No.
It's like a game with words.
Oh.
Yeah, you have to make words. I'm not very good at it. We met Here and Now because I used to go to free festivals. I just used to go to them, you know, just like because I liked them, and then this band Here and Now just used to turn up and play quite a lot of the times, and somehow we got to know them, you know, and when we formed a band, it just seemed when we started Zounds, we would go to free festivals and just set up and play. And at that time we were doing a lot of improvised music. You know, we would just be like going on for fucking hours, particularly if there was a full moon. And you know, it's hard to say what it was like. You know, one of the guys in the band was really into Can. Do you know a German band called Can? You don't know them. They're from the 70s, but quite a very sort of like weird band. And so we're really into that sort of thing. And then kind of like as we carried on, I just started writing songs, and I was writing like shorter songs and songs with choruses and stuff. So the band kind of developed, you know. We'd be doing things like, I don't know, like Patti Smith, where it's just like going on for ages with her ranting, you know, poetry and stuff. We used to do some of that sort of thing. And yeah, so it kind of developed. My aim with the band I didn't have like a long-term aim. My aim was just like always I just liked being in a band and playing, but I never thought, you know, it was never like a career plan. So we didn't really have any aim. You know, the aim was like, oh, that's cool. We've got a band. Let's do a gig. And then our aim was, let's do another gig. And then our aim was like, let's do like a cassette that we can sell at gigs. And then, okay, we've done that. You know, let's do a single. And then we met Crass, and you know, so it kind of was quite organic in that way. I never really had any plans to be a professional musician, and as I said, I've never been a professional musician. So yeah.
I don't get this one. This is from Bradley Albee. He said, did he jump or was he pushed?
It's the name of a song about a teenage suicide. And so I guess the answer is it was a bit of both, really. It's
wait, what?
You know, some people just don't fit in, and they, you know, and they do very destructive and self-harmful things. Is it them that are doing it, or have they been forced into that position? You know, has somebody pushed you into that position, or have you just jumped? It's, you know, there's no answer to the question, really.
Wait, which record is this from? I don't remember.
From The Curse of Zounds. Did he jump or was he pushed?
Oh, okay.
It's a long, sort of slow one, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Next question, yeah.
This is from Brando Lovecraft from Headdress. Headdress is a peace punk band from Southern California. Brand. What influenced Zounds sound in the early days? What has Steve been listening to lately? Like, what have you been listening to lately?
Well, I sort of answered that before, didn't I? Just the same old stuff, African stuff, some like, you know, electronic stuff. I don't even know what it is. And, you know, the actual sound, you know, it sounds, it's hard to say what influences the sound of bands, isn't it? You know, you kind of, different bands sound different, and it's just about the idiosyncratic way they play and the combination of that thing, you know. So, you know, the Buzzcocks sound one way, the Clash sound another way. They're both playing the same instruments, but you know, it's hard to know what really, how bands kind of get a particular character to their sound.
Okay.
So,
also, your earlier comment, you were saying that you're not a professional musician, but your band is big. Like, even you could Google search Zounds t-shirt. There's bootleg shirts all over online. We could go on Etsy. We could find bootleg Zounds t-shirts, Zounds patches, like Zounds. Google. You could Google it, and there's Zounds all over. It's a big band. What would you say?
Say, well, somebody's making some money off of it then, but it's not us. We make no money from Zounds. We don't sell, you know, like we sell some t-shirts at gigs and CDs, but like we're not selling things mail order. And yeah, so, you know, bands have always been ripped off, haven't they? You know, that's always, you know, you go back to like the old blues guys and whatnot, they were all being ripped off, man. So it's just, I don't care. I don't care.
Do you ever Google search it and see all your bootleg shirts? Do you at least write to them, hey, can you give me a free shirt? That's my
yeah. Do you know some people in Los Angeles called Puke and Vomit?
Yes, the records, they have a records.
Yeah. When I did the gigs in 2011 in America, they emailed me. They got my email address and said, "We sell Zounds t-shirts. Do you want any? We'll give you like as many as you want." So when we went over, they gave us a load of t-shirts, and whenever we go there, they give us t-shirts and we sell them. So. But they're the only people that have ever offered us anything. They're the only people. So, you know, but I don't Google Zounds.
Oh no, I do that when I look for shirts. I Google.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, some of the bootlegger shirts has the best design, better than the bands.
Yeah, well, they're professionals. The bands aren't professionals.
Sometimes. It's made by the fans, so the fans will know what the other fans want. And I was like, wow.
Yeah. It's always trust the fans, never the band.
Yes.
Yeah, no. I don't. You know, it's. Oh right, sorry. I've just got to unplug that. I noticed something.
Oh, okay. This is gonna sound funny because a couple of weeks ago I was telling my friend Colin in England, I was saying, hey, I always like the bootleg shirts better than your band design.
Yeah. I know. It's like, this compilation album came out recently, a Zounds compilation with like, you know, same old stuff, but just packaged differently. And this guy said, "So what do you want for the cover?" He said, "We're going to design a cover and we'll send it to you and see what you say. Do you got any suggestions?" So I suggested something. They sent something completely different back. And I was thinking, I don't even know if I like this. But I was thinking, well, they like the band. They know what they like. So I'll just let them do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. You know. So, yeah, it's hard to have control. You know, I think fans kind of dictate what the band are like anyway, you know, in some ways. And they know what they like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, this is just a question. Have you, when this is all over and everything, have you thought about doing the band full time or anything like that?
I don't think it would. I don't think it would be possible. We'd have to be traveling about the world all the time, and I don't know if I've got the. I don't know if I've got the energy for it. And also, like with I don't know. I think if we came to America a lot, we could play a lot. But I can't spend masses of time in America, and I'm a lazy person as well. You've got to remember, I love doing gigs and I love playing, but I mean, I don't want to be doing it all the time. I like to just hang out in my house and look at the garden and make weird music on my synthesizer.
Okay.
So yeah, I won't be doing it full time, no.
Just a quick question. Since you say you're a lazy person, during this lockdown, since you're home a lot, what advice would you give to other folks who are at home, stuck at home on the lockdown?
Do something creative. Do something creative. Keep your head together. Phone your friends. Read books. And try and look forward to better times, and that's all really.
Cool. Thank you. We've been doing this interview for 1 hour and 20 minutes.
Oh my God, outrageous. Well, look, it's really nice to speak to you. I hope you've enjoyed it, and
I'm gonna upload it on YouTube tomorrow. It feels like I just talked to you only for 15 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's good. And hopefully we will get back to California some point, and we can meet up or whatever.
Yes, you got to play festivals again. Manic Relapse Fest as well.
Yeah, that would be good. I loved Manic Relapse. It was so great. Yeah, that was so great. Okay, peace and love, America.
Yes, play more.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.